ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii. Seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill.
The man telling a child to climb down a manhole following this false alarm.
It wasn't until 38 minutes later that a correction was sent to cell phones saying it was all a false alarm. Somebody pushed the wrong button.
What if there actually was an attack and a missile coming in? I mean, it was a circus of errors.
Days away from a fast approaching deadline for Congress to pass a spending bill. And a deal on DACA remains a key sticking point.
Everybody should be thanking him, trying to get to the bottom of this.
Representatives from North and South Korea have agreed to meet for follow-up talks on next month's Winter Olympics.
Ryan flips one into the end zone with a prayer, incomplete. The first playoff win for the Eagles since the 2008 season.
It's like a soundtrack of my life. For you guys, it's kind of retro.
It's kind of retro, but it lives on.
Yeah,
it still motivates.
This is timeless.
So if you're in your bed and you started a workout program for the new year, you're going to get in shape, then get out of bed because we just played the soundtrack for you. If not, then just pull the covers up and just open your eyes a little bit and watch us this morning.
Or listen.
There's a lot of visuals there, Pete.
You get to make the choice. Get up, get after it, or stay lazy. It's Sunday morning.
Or grab a cup of
This,
coffee.
I would say, for anybody who's getting up, is a way better wake-up call than the folks got in Hawaii at about 8 o'clock in the morning
played.
yesterday morning. Their
Wow.
phones went off with one of those emergency alerts that you can't override, saying that there was an incoming ballistic missile threat.
This is
just
not a test,
one problem.
it said.
Yeah, not a test, it says. There's just one problem. It wasn't even a test. Somebody just hit the wrong button.
So this is the alert that came to the phones to folks in Hawaii. It said,
we have it. Okay.
This emergency alert pops up. Ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii. Seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill. Now, if you're on Twitter, you saw this retweeted and pushed out immediately. Because when it says this is not a drill, and in light of what, the world we're in right now with North Korea, you have to take it seriously.
Right, but it took 38 minutes before they were able to send another alert saying, hey, this was a false alarm. In the meantime, people were scrambling. They were panicking.
That's right.
They were putting children in drain holes and hiding in their bathtubs. Frightening stuff.
So this alert goes out to 1.3 million Hawaii residents and thousands who are visiting the island. 13 minutes later, now, you go on Twitter, you debunk it, right? Their emergency management
That's what you'd be doing if you were running for your life. Like you'd be checking Twitter. Hey, let me call my parents and say goodbye, and let me check Twitter, too.
So U.S. Pacific Command debunked it and everything else. But you're right. It doesn't matter until that next alert hits the phone of those 1.3 million people that says, not true, don't worry about it. But it is a reminder of the world that we live in, of the umbrella of a threat, especially our 50th state out there in Hawaii that is in proximity of North Korea.
Well, there was no ballistic missile, thankfully.
Yep.
However, that did not keep the left from going ballistic. And not only are we talking about Hollywood going ballistic, but take a listen to one of the Democratic representatives from Hawaii just moments after learning that not only was this a false alarm, but this was entirely because of a state-run emergency operations center. Take a listen.
Our leaders have failed us. Donald Trump is taking too long. He's not taking this threat seriously, and there's no time to waste. We've got to get rid of this nuclear threat from North Korea. We've got to achieve peace, not play politics, but achieve peace, because this is literally life and death that is at stake for the people of Hawaii and the people of this country.
So the other person who jumped in right away to blame President Trump, and not the person, by the way, who pushed the wrong button, was Jim Carrey. He tweeted, because he happened to be on the island at the time. He said, I woke up this morning in Hawaii with 10 minutes to live. It was a false alarm, but a real psychic warning. If we allow this one-man Gamora and his corrupt Republican Congress to continue alienating the world, we are headed for suffering beyond all imagination. Jamie Lee Curtis jumped in.
Not to be outdone.
Yes.
Jamie Lee Curtis tweeted this on, as well, saying, this Hawaii missile scare is on you, Mr. Trump. The real fear that mothers and fathers and children felt is on you. It is on your arrogance, hubris, narcissism, rage, ego, immaturity, and your unstable idiocy. Shame on your hate-filled self. You did this. So it wasn't the guy who accidentally pushed the button or the lack of protocols. I know Tulsi Gabbard. She's an Iraq War veteran. But she's a far left member of Congress. What did it take her? A couple of words to get the word Trump out? Yeah. I mean, do we not recall that it was a 1994 deal that Bill Clinton signed with North Korea that started this ball rolling, and George W. Bush didn't handle it any better, and neither did Barack Obama. And so Trump's got this difficult hand. But it's amazing to watch Ace Ventura and Jamie Lee Curtis criticize the president as if it's his fault.
Well, I've heard the word North Korea more over the last year than I heard over the last 8 years of the Obama administration, which signals to me that this is a big problem that Donald Trump decided to take on as soon as he got into office. Now, is it hard? Like you said, he was dealt a tough hand, but it looks like this is a president who's not trying to kick this down the road. And let's not forget, it was South Korea that said that they actually give credit to the president for the meetings that are coming up that are really kind of a little bit of a break in some of the...
It's a really good point. If you're willing to embrace this terrible situation, suddenly you now own it. And you have to give the president a lot of credit for his willingness to embrace what is it's an untenable situation.
Yes.
Is it nuclear war? Is it conventional war? You know, you want to have talks, but the talks have proved to be ineffective as North Korea has used them to arm themselves. But he's not pointing fingers at other administrations. He's just owning this problem and saying, if you believe in America first, then you better do something about the one regime that wants to launch missiles at our homeland, and this is a stark reminder. So thankfully,
is a stark reminder.
If you think about it in a way, this is sort of part and parcel for the Trump administration. Whatever problems he's inherited, he tends not to look back and blame his predecessor, as others have done in the office, and look forward. One thing that he has said he really wants to deal with is military readiness, and sort of what would happen in this worst-case scenario. Is the U.S. government ready? Politico had a thought about that in light of this failed sort of episode, I guess you could say, or snafu. The snafu involves solely the Hawaiian Emergency Operations Center. This is talking, though, about the U.S. government in general. Politico saying the U.S. government hasn't tested these plans, meaning a plan for incoming missiles in 30 years. All the fresh faces sitting around the table in the Situation Room have little idea what their roles would be in this scenario. Okay. I love it.
Sarah Sanders has something to say about that. She says General Kelly, General Mattis, General McMaster, General Kellogg, and General Waddell, some of the greatest military leaders of their generation, are fresh faces. Doubt ISIS would agree.
Great.
That is such a great tweet.
Such a great response. Well done. And the reality is, you might have fresh, new faces in these positions, but the amount of experience they have is unprecedented. You know, you got to revisit protocols, and apparently the folks in Hawaii have said, well, we didn't have a redundant, we didn't have two people overwatching it. It was a mistake. But it's silly to watch Politico and others jump to, well, this is somehow the Trump administration.
Well, and not hold the people responsible who are there in Hawaii. All right, this is sort of an interesting thing that we've seen play out over the past couple of days now, as it related to that famous meeting inside the White House on Thursday where President Trump allegedly used some salty language. We're learning a little bit more about that. Now, some Democratic aides are talking about that meeting when this gang of 6 came to show up, and they're saying that Lindsey Graham and Dick Durbin expected to have a meeting. They show up, and there is an anti-immigrant cast of characters there, and that was obviously designed by Stephen Miller to try and kill the deal that they had come to present to the president. Now, in and of itself, that quote can mean a lot of different things, but it perhaps could give us an idea or shed some light on why that bombshell leak came out. If you don't like what happened in a meeting, then you just go ahead and leak something out as a distraction.
You're right. It's an interesting new nugget. That quote came out in the Hill from one of Dick Durbin's aides. So they show up at the meeting, and they thought it was just going to be them. Turns out there were a couple more folks there. I think we have a full screen of who else was there. A Representative Goodlatte on the House side, and then on the Senate side, Senators Perdue and Cotton, both of which known to be very strong on their views on what we should do with immigration.
And Stephen Miller was there as well.
And Stephen Miller. So they're giving credit to Stephen Miller. The report also pushes back and says, well, the president was the one that said, I want Perdue and Cotton there as well. Because if you don't think that Durbin and Graham are going to give you a strong immigration bill, which those of us that have followed this know they're not going to, then why would you not have some guys that are going to have your back in that meeting?
Well, and the president treated, subsequently, and he said, look, I did not like this deal. And it was obvious. I mean, he got an eighth of what he wanted for the wall. He didn't get an end to chain migration. He did get the lottery. But look, the first indictment is out in the Justice Department's probe of the Clinton State Department uranium one deal. Mike Lambert, a former company president of Maryland Nuclear Capable Transit Company, faces 11 counts, including wire fraud and money laundering. The DOJ says he paid bribes to Russians to win nuclear transport contracts. The deal was okayed by the Obama administration, including Hillary Clinton, giving a Russian company 20% control of U.S. uranium. A chilling threat to NFL fans and players. Police arresting a man threatening to commit a mass shooting at today's Pittsburgh Steelers playoff game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. According to an affidavit, Yutuna Chuchunko from Texas, sorry, that was a tough name.
Nice job.
Sent threats to Heinz Field and a Pittsburgh news station. One reading, quote, the Steelers game will be packed, and that's when I plan on killing Steelers football players and fans before taking my own pitiful life. The FBI tracing it back to a facility in San Antonio. He now faces terror charges. It's business as usual for the New England Patriots, the defending Super Bowl champions, dismantling the Tennessee Titans in the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, 35-14. Tom Brady and the Pats head to their 7th straight AFC title game. It was a different story in Philadelphia. The one-seeded Eagles, the underdogs at home against the Atlanta Falcons. This one going down to the wire.
Trouble. Ryan flips one into the end zone with a prayer, incomplete.
Ryan still wants
Backup quarterback Nick Foles led the charge against the former NFC champs 15-10. They play the winner of today's matchup between the Saints and the Vikings.
You better believe they do. That's why I got my Vikings tie on this morning. I'm ready to go. My squad has a chance this year. Please cheer with me.
Little chance.
All right. Well, House Intel Chair Devin Nunes says the government abused its surveillance power to allegedly spy on the Trump campaign. Our next guest worked on that campaign and says he was unmasked because of it.
Wow.
And she was convicted of leaking government secrets. Now, yes, she wants to serve in government.
Devin Nunes accusing the government of abusing its surveillance powers to target Americans.
Our next guest claims he was unfairly unmasked. Michael Caputo, former senior advisor of the Trump campaign, joins us now. Michael, good to see you and good morning. If you were unmasked for political reasons, that is a federal crime. Do you have any evidence to support this, or is this sort of what folks have been telling you who are your friends?
Well, I was informed by a person who was connected to the intelligence services that I was unmasked. But I'm not in a small company. There were hundreds, if not just over 1,000 people who were unmasked for what appears to be political purposes just because we're connected to then the Republican nominee. You know, I don't know how this impacted my life, but it's starting to look like the political reasons were behind a lot of this investigation and especially some of this FISA activity.
The new news here, Michael, is that Devin Nunes has seen these FISA warrants and that he believes they show that there was political targeting. Do you know anything more about what he may have seen and what it would reveal?
No, I don't, but I'm waiting on the edge of my seat to find out. And I thank God every day for Devin Nunes. All of us who are caught up in this bogus investigation are very happy that he has been dogged in his actions trying to get to the bottom of a lot of this political intelligence investigations. You know, they went after Devin Nunes as well. I mean, they tried to ruin his reputation, brought him into an ethics investigation. They'll stop at nothing to keep this secret. I'm quite sure.
I just want to get back. I want to get back to this where you say you were told by a friend. Where do we make the leap from I was told by a friend that this happened who was connected to the intelligence community to this definitely happened to somehow my phone calls were listened to?
All I know is that my cell phone was unmasked, and I was told by someone who is in the know on this situation, and that I'm one of hundreds and hundreds of people who were unmasked. I'm not quite sure how this impacted me as well, but of the hundreds of people who were allegedly unmasked by the Obama administration, I think, I've been talking to lawyers. We may have some kind of legal recourse here. This is clearly an abuse of power, and it's starting to look more and more every day, thanks to Devin Nunes and others, that politics were a leading reason for a lot of this intelligence activity here in the United States.
If this is true, if your cell phone number was unmasked, if 100 or even, as you mentioned, 1,000 people were unmasked potentially, what's the larger takeaway? What was happening, and what was the motivation for this?
Well, all the FISA requirements and FISA activity were passed in order to, keep this nation safe from terrorism. And it appears, I don't really fear FISA and all of those procedures. I fear the people who were in charge of those procedures. It really looks like the Obama administration was using FISA and other intelligence, assets in order to investigate a political rival. And to me, that just stinks up to high heaven.
Well, all right, Michael Caputo, we're going to get a chance to find out, hopefully get the information and the facts to find out if indeed that very much was the case. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, coming up, Democrats John Lewis and Maxine Waters say they will skip President Trump's State of the Union address.
I wouldn't waste my time sitting in that house listening to what he has to say.
Well, our next guest says their behavior is petty and wrong. Niger Innis joins us next.
And the video unreal. Firefighters teaming up to rescue a baby from a burning apartment. You can see it right there. You're going to hear from one of those heroes risking their life. Thanks for waking up with us on this Sunday morning. Quick headlines from some stories developing overnight. A gunman holding a child hostage in a garage for more than 24 hours as he fires at police. The standoff is still underway right now near Cincinnati, Ohio.
He took the kid hostage, the 10-year-old, and then everybody else fled the house.
The sheriff says other people left the apartment after an argument. The man fired about 20 rounds at deputies. So far, no injuries have been reported. We'll stay on this. And search and rescue crews desperately digging through the remains of those Southern California mudslides. Still, days later, hoping to find survivors. Officials acknowledging, though, those chances are slim and are getting worse as time passes. But they'll do, quote, whatever it takes. As of now, 19 people, Pete, confirmed dead.
Thanks for that. Well, it started. Democrats are saying they will boycott the president's first State of the Union, and they're using the usual liberal talking points to describe the president.
The words and his action tend to speak like one who knows something about being a racist. It must be in his DNA. I do not plan to attend the State of the Union.
I don't trust him, I don't appreciate him, and I wouldn't waste my time sitting in that house listening to what he has to say.
Do these Democrats really think using this rhetoric and boycotting the president is good for the country? National spokesman for the Congress of Racial Equality and conservative commentator Niger Innis joins us now. Niger, welcome.
Good morning.
Morning. So what's your take? I mean, to that question, is this productive? Is this useful? Are they making a useful statement?
No, not at all. In fact, I wonder what John Lewis, who obviously is a civil rights hero and icon, but I wonder what he means by racism is in Donald Trump's DNA. Is that an anti-German slur? You know, I won't go there, but it makes one wonder. Look, the reality is that these far-left progressives have been boycotting this president for several weeks. About a month ago, at a celebration of the African American Museum, the president went to join in celebration of the African American Museum, obviously well before these alleged comments took place. and John Lewis boycotted that event. You know, it could be a raining thunderstorm outside, and the president could give Lewis and Mad Max, Maxine Waters, an umbrella, and they would prefer to get wet. There's nothing that this president could do that would be right in their eyes.
Niger, they also boycotted the inauguration. I was there. There were lots of empty seats. One of the things people love about America is we have these really crazy, you know, contentious elections, but then we all come together as a nation. What's the message it sends about America?
It's a very unhelpful, a very unhealthy message and signal that is sent. And you would think that these far-left progressives, even though they disagree with the ideology of our president, that they would applaud 3 to 4% growth, record numbers in the stock market, record low black unemployment. You know, this president's actions speak far louder than his tweets and his alleged words.
But is that, Niger, is that resonating in the African-American community? We know what these leaders or so-called leaders, how they're reacting to the president, but are the numbers, are the results, especially the economic results, are they being felt and recognized and attributed to the president?
Now, I think those are two distinct answers, actually. Are they being felt? Absolutely. Is the benefit being felt? Absolutely. But is it being recognized? And is the credit being given to President Trump? I'd have to say the jury is still out on that, and that the White House and the RNC have the responsibility to reach out to black press, black media, and black spokesfolk. And not, by the way, not just black press and black media, but Hispanic and mainstream media, and get that message out there, because you can be sure that in those circles that message is not resonating as much as it should be.
Yeah, Niger, a big question will be whether or not, just like with the white working class, blue-collar folks who were traditional Democratic voters moved to the Trump camp, will black voters who feel the benefit to their lives be able to overcome the misinformation from their leaders? Briefly, do you think they could if the economic position continues to improve?
No question about it, but there's got to be a full court press, pun intended, in the ethnic media and get the president's message out, or else they're going to be dissuaded that the president deserves credit for these great economic numbers.
Numbers among Hispanic men and African-American men are actually up for the president. Not maybe as much as he would like, but they are moving in that direction. Thank you so much, Niger, for coming. Always insightful.
Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Rachel.
You got it. Thanks a lot. Have a great morning. All right, coming up, Hawaiians still rattled after a false missile alert sparks panic across the island.
Today is a day that most of us will never forget. Many in our community thought that our worst nightmares might actually be happening.
Our next guests woke up, grabbed their kids, and fled for their lives. They share their terrifying experience with us from Hawaii next.
And the president's tax plan paying off again. One car dealer is giving all of his workers $500 bonuses. The owner joins us live. Coming up.
Well, this morning, people in Hawaii still a bit rattled after a petrifying alert yesterday, warning of an inbound ballistic missile headed their way.
Well, officials confirm it was a false alarm, blaming a worker for pushing, quote, the wrong button, as terrified Hawaiians, including our next guests, then fled their homes.
Donnie and Ellie Jones rushed for safety when the alarm woke them up. They join us live from Hawaii with their story. Thank you for joining us. Tell us what you first thought when you saw, what was the first thing that runs to your mind when you see a text message like this? It sounds frightening.
Frightening. Panic and terrifying would basically be the first thought.
And then it couldn't be true, but then it was.
But how long did it take before you went, okay, I got to do something?
Wow. Reality, just only a couple minutes. I was outside. My wife's like, come inside quick. Something's happened.
I was trying not to say anything in front of the kids.
Yeah. Where we live here, we have flood warnings, tidal wave warnings, hurricane warnings, things like that that are very important. But then when something like this happens, then it's a different ballgame.
Okay, so you got a couple of minutes.
Things escalate really fast, really quick.
You're trying to process, is it true, is it not true? Do we say it in front of the kids? Do we not say it in front of the kids? But then you probably huddled and said, okay, here's our action plan. So what was your action plan? And first, had you thought of it before? Had you war gamed this?
I had thought, and not of this specific thing, I was probably thinking, you know, if there really truly is a missile coming in, you don't have much of a shot no matter what. But one of my game plans is we have people on the island that we know who have houses with hurricane shelters. So I called my best friend in LA and asked if we could go to her house. And we just started packing.
What'd you pack?
Yeah. First, grab the kids, get them together, tell them to get, you know, kids
it was
clothes,
a drill.
Grab money, grab 2 guns, a little food, and away we went.
That's, I mean, that's the basics is really what we're talking about here.
Just the basics, just in case you don't know what's going to happen. It sounds bad or crazy, but yeah.
You know, I mean, and really, you guys
might need.
I got to applaud you all, both of you, sort of for the presence of mind that you had in those 2 minutes, because a lot of the video we've seen is people, you know, sort of screaming and freaking out, and then there's a few people who sort of really focused in on what they could try to do to save themselves if this was real. 38 minutes later, you get that next alert that says it's not real. What did you think? And now that you know that this was really just an epic human error and screw up, are you angry? Are you sad? What's the emotion?
I'm grateful. We're alive. It wasn't real. Our family's safe. And, you know, honestly, it was a great learning experience. And it was a great way to see exactly how you're going to react in the real deal. And so it gave me, you know, we'll be packing a better emergency kit now. We'll know what to do better if that ever happens again.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
No one ever.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No one ever really. If you know you're going to have a fire drill at school, you walk slow. It doesn't really matter. Even though it was a mistake, like she said, it gives a lot. Hopefully, a lot of people have learned for themselves and their families what they're going to need to do and maybe have prepared ahead of time, because it really is important. Living on a small island, something like this, you don't have a lot of options. There's nowhere to really run and hide, so you're just going to try to take the best care of you and yourselves and your family.
The reality is we live in a world where things like this, unfortunately, could happen. And listen, I'm with you guys. Grab your cash, grab your kids, grab your guns, grab some food, and we'll see what happens next. So, Donnie and Ellie Jones, thank you very much for your time. God bless you, and we hope you're all safe on the island. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We are,
so much.
Everybody is too.
Love it.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys. Aloha. An illegal immigrant now facing terror charges for threatening to kill passengers on a Greyhound bus. Witnesses say 33-year-old Margarito Vargas Rosas was pacing the aisle, reaching into his waistband, leading them to believe he had a gun.
He is making threats to the bus driver. It is a hostage situation. They're just coming into our county.
Authorities eventually stopping the bus in northern Illinois, arresting Vargas Rosas and freeing roughly 40 passengers uninjured. They did not find any weapons, and the Mexican national was reportedly deported back in 2012. Days after criticizing President Trump for his comments on immigration, the Clintons feeling the heat for their work in Haiti. Some have alleged they misused donations in the wake of the 2010 earthquake, an allegation stemming from their former Clinton Foundation employee, Doug Band. He wrote in this email released by WikiLeaks that the foundation used resources to pay for Chelsea Clinton's wedding. Now, Bill Clinton responding, tweeting, quote, "No Clinton Foundation funds dedicated to Haiti or otherwise used to pay for Chelsea's wedding. It's not only untrue, it's a personal insult to me and Hillary and to Chelsea and Mark." Chelsea's wedding was in 2010, the same year as the Haiti earthquake. The disgraced former Army private convicted of leaking classified documents is running for the U.S. Senate. Chelsea Manning is now one of 4 Democratic candidates filing to run in Maryland. Incumbent Democrat Senator Ben Cardin has yet to announce whether he'll seek a 3rd term. Manning, known as Bradley before transitioning in prison, was convicted in 2013 for espionage. President Obama granted her clemency after serving only 7 years of a 35-year sentence. Heroic firefighters making the catch of a lifetime. Dramatic video showing a frantic parent dropping her baby from the 3rd floor of a burning building, then thrown again into the arms of a firefighter on the ground.
I get about halfway up and somebody drops a baby to me.
Did they give you warning that they were going to drop a baby?
No. I think they thought I was expecting it.
Incredible. The baby was just one out of a dozen people rescued by these brave Georgia firefighters. Good for them. The father of 8, who was the last to be rescued, suffered second-degree burns.
Wow.
And those are your headlines.
Saved everybody along the way.
Amazing.
It's like watching heroism before your eyes.
Right.
Yeah.
Amazing what those folks do for us.
It is incredible.
All right. Well, you know, yesterday when we all walked to work, it was pretty nice. And this morning, it was not so much something that, Rick, you experienced firsthand yesterday.
Yes, hey.
I love seeing Rick. So.
You as well. I know. Yesterday, I walked in, it was balmy. I didn't even have my coat on. And throughout the day, throughout the show, actually, yesterday, really quickly, 42 degrees colder right now than it was 24 hours ago here in Manhattan. All the eastern seaboard way cooled down, warming up here across parts of the far northern plains, at least. Maybe that feels a little bit better. About 20 degrees warmer across parts of northern Montana. Here you go. Here's our current temperatures. It's -8 right now in Minneapolis, 15 in New York City. A lot of ice jams across a lot of the rivers up here across parts of the Northeast because of that rapid melt we saw this week with the warmer temperatures. And now quickly the cold air settles right back in. A pretty calm day as far as weather goes across much of the country. We have a little bit of snow that's falling across parts of the Central Plains. You'll see that there. Most of this is going to total maybe 1 to 3 inches. Not going to be a major problem for people. Later on today, we'll see snow moving in towards the Chicago area. Tomorrow, a little bit of snow across parts of the deep south. Temperatures today, 41 in Atlanta, 48 for a high in New Orleans. You get the idea. It's really chilly out there. Tomorrow, another batch of cold air moves in towards the far northern plains. We're cold on the east, again warm in the west until about Thursday, and then we have the seesaw pattern happen again, and we warm up across the east, cool down across the west.
One thing, you said snow in the deep south?
Snow in the deep south. This will be the third snow for some places like Mississippi of the year, which is pretty crazy to have that all.